players that could return to the Giants in 2026, positions that the Giants are looking to improve, and Buster Posey answers the identity question. That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Alan Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing at Sacramento Rivercats games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are talking about Giants players who might return in 2026, what the Giants are looking for, and the positions they're looking to improve. Buster Posey declares what the Giants' identity is. All right, let's talk about who might return. The Giants have a few prominent free agents whose return would bring continuity, leadership, and stability, but each comes with a little bit of uncertainty. As far as Justin Verlander is concerned, Susan Slusser of the SF Chronicle says that he would, quote, be a strong bet to return if he wants to. Zach Manassian also raved about Justin Verlander. He said, he's just the ultimate competitor. This is someone who has it down to a T. Posey also spoke about Verlander, says that he set an example not just for the younger pitchers, but for guys like Logan Webb as well. The catch with Justin Verlander, as we've talked about on this show before, other teams are going to pursue him. So with limited negotiating windows, the Giants will need to move fast if they do want to re-sign him. Wilmer Flores is another name in the mix. Despite a lot of fans wanting his tenure to end, he's described as a clubhouse favorite, and bringing him back would not break the bank as well. But at 34, with an injury history, the Giants may weigh his veteran presence and whether or not it outweighs the risk or opportunity cost of investing that roster spot elsewhere. The problem with Wilmer Flores is he has no position, right? He's not going to play first base. They already have too many first basemen, and you're just not going to continue to DH him. He's had some good moments, and we really appreciate his time, but I just don't see how the Giants are going to be able to hold on to Wilmer Flores. I just think that the ship has sailed, and it's run its course, if you will. Then there's Dominic Smith. After signing midseason, he made an immediate impact, but Smith complicates things because the Giants already have two left-handed bats at first base with Devers and Eldridge. If Smith returns, his role might be bench or platoon rather than an everyday starter. And the thing about Dominic Smith, when you say something like that, is that he could be, I don't know about an everyday starter, but he could have a bigger role somewhere else, right? And with what they want from Eldridge, of course, and Devers, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. The Giants could want him back, because who wouldn't want a guy like that on their bench to add to their depth? But if you're Dominic Smith and Dominic Smith agent, I'm just not sure why you would choose to stay with the Giants if you had other options. This is what Buster Posey had to say about all three of these players. The quote, "The way I see those three, first is that I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of them because they go about things the right way." Buster went on to say, "Flo is a guy I played with and who is just a pro's pro. Verlander, the same thing. It's so impressive just to watch guys who've done it for as long as he has. Nothing left to prove, but when you're watching this guy, it looks like he's making his first start every time. He's preparing to play. Dom really stabilized us when he came up." The bottom line is Verlander is the most logical and compelling to return if the Giants want it and if he wants it. Flores and Smith are nice veterans to consider, but their returns depend more on price, roster fit, and what the front office wants to build out moving forward. I think for me, and I've said this before, it would have been really cool if the Giants could have snuck into the playoffs, because I think both of those guys would have done some legendary things during the playoffs. I could see Wilmer Flores hitting a home run in a high-level moment, high-leverage moment, and same thing with Dominic Smith. But it didn't happen. They didn't make the playoffs, and now the Giants have to turn the page on both of them for different reasons. Wilmer Flores, he's had a good run with the Giants. Like I said, I just feel like it's run its course. And with Dominic Smith, I think the Giants would love to have him, but he should have options. He played really well for the Giants, and he deserves to have options. And that's his agent's job to make sure that he cashes in on the season that he just had. So because of that, and obviously, I mean, he gave his body up for the team when they were trying to make the playoffs. He does that ridiculous splits on that crazy play, and it was beautiful to watch, right? And that subsequently ended his season, and it would have been really nice to have him. But the reason that the Giants did have him, as well as Wilmer Flores, at first base throughout the season is because Bryce Eldridge was on the way. Now Bryce Eldridge is here, and at least with Wilmer Flores, he's right-handed. The problem is Wilmer only plays first base at this point too. So that's a tough thing. I mean, I guess you could throw Wilmer at third base still from time to time, but why? No disrespect, but why, right? So that's where we're at with the Giants, and those are the most prominent pieces as far as who could return and who is maybe interested in returning versus if the Giants are interested in having them return. We know Buster, as we talked about the manager conversation, didn't really want to do too much internally, is trying to look for somebody not necessarily on the outside, the way outside, but didn't want to just promote somebody. So no returners in that regard. And I don't know if we're going to have any returners out of those three. It might be Verlander, but it probably left a pretty bad taste in his mouth what just happened. And he wasn't great throughout the beginning of the season, right? But he really turned it on towards the end, and we know he's trying to scratch and claw and get to those 300 wins, and they left some out there. He left some out there for himself, and the Giants left some out there for him as well. And can he kind of get over that and move forward and give it another go, if you will? Or is there going to be a team that he just feels like that lineup is better suited for him and wants to take his talents there? He doesn't have a ton of time left, so I would respect either thing he does. With how McDonald pitched at the end of the season, I think Buster, and he said this too, wants to rely on some young arms. So even though Verlander is the most logical, I'm not terribly sure how logical it is. If you want to slot him in as that fifth starter, I don't have a problem with that, but I also wouldn't have a problem seeing what the young guys can do and starting to lean on them and to see, and this is what Buster said, who out of those young guys going to step up as far as the pitching is concerned. So I don't know that any of those three are going to return. I'm most sure that Dominic Smith is not returning, just because I think he played so well. Wilmer Flores, look, man, you never know. The Giants do tend to love some of their lifers, so you never know what Wilmer Flores and Justin Verlander. It's just a matter of whether he chooses the Giants and the other teams that are interested in him. Maybe the other teams are worse off than the Giants, and he thinks that staying with the Giants is the best move for him. That's just something we're going to have to wait and see. On the other side, we talked about the returners that the Giants might be interested in bringing back. Who are the Giants interested in as a whole, and what positions are they looking to upgrade? Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So what exactly are the Giants looking for? If the Giants succeed in bringing back a few familiar faces, they'll still enter 2026 with definite roster gaps. The front office seems to already have a shopping list: bullpen, rotation depth, and bench flexibility. One glaring need is bullpen reinforcement. The 2025 season exposed how fragile the Giants' relief corps can be. To avoid repeating late night inning collapses and late day inning collapses, they'll need multi-inning arms and reliable late inning shots. So the other thing is we understand that they got rid of some of that. And that's why I said bring Tyler Rogers home. We understand that some of that was by design, but now you still have to go get them because this season's over and you're going to need something like that to compete in 2026. On the rotation side, if Verlander doesn't return, or even if he does, the Giants will want internal and external options. They could pursue Tyler Rogers for familiarity and bullpen depth, as well as some other veteran starters if Verlander walks. I know you're thinking, Alan, give us some names. Well, I have a name for you. He pitched in the Bay, but it wasn't for the San Francisco Giants. How about Sonny Gray? That is a name that is being floated as a fit, especially given that past Bay Area connection. Another area is outfield and bench depth. The Giants may not fully trust internal options like Encarnacion, Grant McCray, or Luis Matos. So picking up a veteran or Drew Gilbert. So picking up a veteran outfielder or two makes sense. Susan Slusser, she had an article and she noted that one former Giant could be a free agent target to fill that role, okay? Which could be, funny enough, Mr. Mike Yastrzemski. Lastly, roster flexibility is key. If the Giants bring back Smith or Flores, they'll want options that can rotate in and out without creating log jams. That means players who can play multiple positions, pinch hit, or serve as defensive replacements. In short, the blueprint seems clear. The Giants should try to retain core vets like Verlander if possible, then aggressively pursue depth in pitching, starting, and relief while adding quality outfielders and bench arms. That combination gives them both continuity and flexibility to build toward a more stable, competitive 2026. So as far as the Mike Yastrzemski thing is concerned, this is no disrespect to Mike Yastrzemski. And I know he played well when he got moved and everyone said, they shouldn't have moved Yastrzemski. I do want to see what the young guys have. Because at some point, like I continue to say, your farm system has to hit for you. And you're kind of scratching and clawing. Maybe you have a diamond in the rough. Grant McCray got a tough, the short end of the stick this season when they went out, they moved off of Yaz. You had Luis Matos, Drew Gilbert, and I know people may feel like Grant McCray got enough at-bats. Gerard Encarnacion, he messed up. He couldn't really stay healthy, and that was an issue for him. But we saw him get hot for a little bit. And then, of course, it's everyone's favorite maniac, Drew Gilbert, and what he brings to the table. So I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm be honest with you. I'm willing to sacrifice right field instead of bringing in a veteran where we're talking about platooning again. If you want to open up that checkbook and bring in Kyle Tucker, I'm all for it. Go ahead and do it. But as far as these veterans like Mike Yastrzemski, it's just enough with some of these reunions at this point with these veterans. And it's not about whether you play for the Giants or not. To me, it's just about what is your ceiling, right? And we've seen a lot of their ceilings. I am intrigued to see what the ceiling is. If you look around, and this is what I said during the season, if you look around at where the Giants have chosen to cash out already, you should be able to afford to use right field as a development test site, right? You got teams starting. I know the Cleveland Guardians, they're done now, but you got teams starting center fielders during the playoffs, right? Giving them opportunities, their first start of their career during the playoffs. You have to develop young talent. So you're almost procrastinating. If you bring in a Mike Yastrzemski or you bring in a guy that has already been around the block and we know who he is and he's just kind of hanging out, he better not be taking at bats, right? If you want to bring in somebody that, all right, Drew Gilbert's your guy, but you'd like a righty, and Encarnacion could be that guy, but maybe you want a righty as the and even Grant McCray too, but he's a lefty. So those two guys, but you want a righty as a vet. Cool. But they cannot be taking at bats away from some of these guys. Look at Luis Matos, who his time might be done with the Giants. You decided to keep Yaz out there. You end up moving off of Yaz, and Luis Matos got really hot at the end of the season, but I don't know that it's enough. I have no clue, right? And they've ran out of time with these options for him to kind of make a decision if you want to move forward with him or not. So what was the point of that? And you missed the playoffs. And I get it. They were winning early. So when everybody's winning, everyone loves what's going on. But at some point, you're going to have to develop this young talent. at the major league level. We already know that the Giants have started to do a good job in single A out there in San Jose, obviously Sacramento, in single A, double A, triple A, high A, rookie ball, all that. We understand that. But you still have to develop these guys once they get to the big leagues. There's no question whether or not Bryce Eldridge will get an opportunity to develop, but what about some of these other guys? I know a lot of us were frustrated, and you want to see, and I see you in the comments, Alan, these guys aren't good. These guys aren't good. I don't necessarily know what you expect as far as a starting spot for them. Do you expect them to just show up and hit 300 immediately? And I get it. Some rookies do that, right? But at the same time, you're kind of yo-yoing them back and forth. Drew Gilbert here, you get a series, and you can't let somebody, I mean, basically what they did for Tyler Fitzgerald, I felt like was the way you find out if somebody is ready or not. Tyler Fitzgerald, it felt like he got a pretty fair shake at it, right? Once he legitimately just could not hit the baseball, that's when the Giants said, all right, we gave you enough time and we did not bother you, right? You weren't flip-flopping. It was your spot besides some days off, of course, and he couldn't get it done. So once that happened, the Giants then made a decision and said, hey, all right, Casey Schmidt, whoever, let's see what else you got, because it's just hard for Tyler Fitzgerald to figure it out. But the right field position and how platoony it was, I just think it did everybody a disservice. And if you bring in somebody like Yastrzemski, who might start opening day, number one, he's a lefty bat as well. So Grant McCray, Drew Gilbert, guys like that, now you're fighting behind them from jump. I just don't think that is the best way to go about it at this point in time, because you have to develop somebody at some point. And unless this guy, like I said, is just going to be your infield or your outfielder, your right fielder of the future, I wouldn't do that. Willie Adames is a good example. Tyler Fitzgerald was playing shortstop. Everybody kind of felt like he wasn't going to be a natural shortstop, and they decided to just pay more at the position and improve that position. That's how it's supposed to be done when you feel like that. If they had brought in some Tommy LaStella type, there's a name drop, and you're kind of sitting there just going back and forth platooning with him, and now if you did think Tyler Fitzgerald had an opportunity, he's just getting yo-yoed back and forth. What's the point of that? That's how I feel about bringing in vets. You can bring in as many vets as you want, as long as you're still trying to develop the young talent. So they're looking for pitching. They're looking for the bullpen, of course, as well, starting pitching bullpen. And most of it was talked about as far as the outfield, which does kind of lead us to believe, like we had discussed, that Casey Schmidt has kind of locked down that second base position. One more segment with you. When we return, Buster Posey lays out what the Giants' identity should be heading into 2026. He's saying one thing, but does the roster reflect another? Let's talk about it. Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is so much fun. It's a simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute. My favorite part, PrizePicks just added stacks. So if you want to ride with the player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. And the new injury reboot feature, if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view review from my seat before buying. Fees are included. Know your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Last but not least, Buster Posey declares the Giants' identity, and it might surprise you or might not as far as what that identity is. Buster Posey says it is pitching and defense. Buster was clear and direct when asked about the Giants' future. Quote, "It's up to us to try to add some pieces that do create more depth on the pitching side," Posey said. He also said, "You're hoping that each year some of these young arms will take a step forward. That's something that needs to happen. We're most definitely open to trying to add some arms we think are going to help us on the starting side and the bullpen side." In other words, Posey sees the path forward, not in slugging their way past the Dodgers or Yankees of the world, but in doubling down on what he believes the Giants' calling card is. Quote, "What we believe to be the recipe of success is pitching and defense. So we know we need to be better there," he said. "I do think when that's your formula, a lot of times it can eliminate some of those tough stretches. Not eliminate them, but help you get out of them quicker." That's an identity statement. Posey is signaling that the Giants want to look more like the Guardians or Brewers, grinding out wins with elite arms and airtight defense than like the big market, big swinging lineups of LA or New York. It also places responsibility, I feel, on young pitchers to be there and take that next step that we all want them to take, to continue to develop while stressing the need to add veteran arms who can stabilize that rotation behind Logan Webb as well. Exactly what Landon Roop did, right? That's the model right there, and we're hoping McDonald follows that model. They still have Blade Tidwell. You know I keep talking about him. There's also a financial element to this. When asked whether Giants ownership is willing to expand payroll this year, Buster Posey said they are committed to putting a winning group of players on the field, indicating that the estimated $178 million payroll, ranked around average in baseball, can go up next year, along with starting pitching. The Giants are also expected to look at upgrades, like I said, in the outfield, another area where depth and defense could support their new identity. The message is simple: no more being caught in the middle. The Giants are choosing a lane, and Buster Posey just told everyone what it is: pitching and defense. So this is something that I guess I'm a little bit confused about, or I don't know about confused, but I need to know more. Let's just go through it position by position. Patrick Bailey, we know what Patrick Bailey brings to the table defensively, right? And I'm only talking defensively right now. Matt Chapman, we know. Willy Adames, it was a little rough early, but I think they're good with Willy Adames. And they're paying Willy Adames to be good with Willy Adames. And that's just not a position that you typically see, at least these days. Hey, we're going to sub in a shortstop towards the end of the game. You just don't typically see that because a lot of these shortstops are getting paid a lot of money. Second base, Casey Schmidt. I don't necessarily, I guess it's possible, but Casey Schmidt has shown some really good flashes as well. So it's been, I don't want to say hit or miss, but I think they feel good with Casey Schmidt. Rafi Devers, he's a dog defensively. He was at third base, and we're already seeing it start to translate at first base. Bryce Eldridge is kind of another story, but he's continuing to evolve as a first baseman. So that's the defense in the infield. I don't think it's bad, right? And I think it's got a ceiling of being above average, possibly elite, right? The outfield is what is a bit confusing to me because, and I've been telling y'all, I'm being nicer to Jung-Hoo Lee these days. Jung-Hoo Lee is an average center fielder. Elliot Ramos is below average in left field. And right field, if you keep Drew Gilbert or even Grant McCray, or if I guess you could bring back Mike Yastrzemski, I wouldn't do it, but you could. Right field above average. Center field, average, with a ceiling of maybe getting to above average. Left field, below average. So I'm kind of struggling to see where the Giants are going to be able to get better defensively. Yeah, okay, you can move on from Elliot Ramos. You can put Grant McCray in left field. That's fine. That defense is now above average. If you had Grant McCray, Drew Gilbert, and Jung-Hoo Lee, that defense is above average, which they've done before. So when it comes to defensive depth and being better defensively, I'm a little confused as to how they're going to do that. They've already paid these guys, and unless you're bringing in some all-world second baseman, I'm not really sure what I'm missing here as far as how the Giants are going to improve their defense. Left field, cool. We can all talk about how Elliot Ramos isn't great in left field. That's one position. All the other positions are either spoken for as far as the money is concerned or spoken for as far as this guy can play defensively. So unless they're, and again, you could upgrade second base if you want. Right field, you could upgrade if you want. I think that's more about hitting than defense. You're not going to bring in somebody unless they go off the wall, which is possible, and you move Jung-Hoo Lee to left and bring in a center fielder. Okay, I know Trent Grisham's available. I would not fall for the Trent Grisham stuff. He has 34 home runs, and he plays for the Yankees. Don't fall for it. I do like the way he plays center field, but don't fall for it, Giants. Please don't. But unless you're going to think about moving Jung-Hoo Lee to a corner and bringing in a center fielder and doing whatever you choose to do in right field, if you want to see what Drew Gilbert can do, I'm struggling to figure out how they're going to get better defensively this quickly because a lot of the positions are spoken for. You can bring in a second baseman, but second base is not even a premium defensive position. I don't think Casey Schmidt, he had some errors, don't get me wrong, but there are buzzwords that people say, and I'm not accusing Buster of doing that. But at the same time, I'm looking around this lineup thinking, well, there's guys you already paid, and okay, cool. Go get a real left fielder, right, or a real defensive left fielder. And Elliot Ramos, who was one of the best hitters for the Giants, by the way, so you're just going to move off of that for this unnamed left fielder that's going to defend better than Elliot Ramos and hit as well as Elliot Ramos. And I've said I'm not. It's not that I'm not a big Elliot Ramos guy. I don't know what to do with Elliot Ramos, but everybody wants to move off of him in left field. Cool. Where are you going to go from there? And that's one position. So I want to know as this thing unfolds what Buster means as far as the defensive standpoint and where they really feel like, and he doesn't want to call anybody out, but where he feels like they actually need to improve and can improve outside of left field and where they think they're going to do that. Because Drew Gilbert and Grant McCray can play a really nice right field. The problem is they can't hit. So what issues are you trying to solve? But I do think I might have unlocked something with that Jung-Hoo Lee conversation. If you move him to left, I don't know what you would do with Elliot Ramos at that point. But if you start looking for a center fielder instead of that right fielder, then that still would be a question in right field. Because I don't know that Elliot Ramos can play right field at Oracle Park. But fascinating stuff. There is more that we will have in the upcoming weeks. We will be back tomorrow, Monday through Friday. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @_Stiles with an I and the Locked On Giants official account. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every single day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until the World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.